Hey there, let's get through this really quick so that I can continue watching this series. Okay, so I have my notes here, and I didn't even introduce you. Hey guys, I'm Chris. This is Kittycraft.
Hello, I'm back.
Oh my god. This is such a train wreck of an introduction. Okay. So, if you don't know, we've made 2 other videos, which is in this playlist of podcasts of me and my good friend Kittycraft just kind of reviewing or kind of just like giving our thoughts on the show Voltron Legendary Defenders, which is the Netflix original. You've probably seen the other videos in this series if you're watching this one. And
Yeah. If not, probably go there first.
yeah, that would be a good idea. As in this podcast, we are going to be talking about the quote like first half of season 7. It's actually not the first half because there was 13 episodes and I started watching and I got to like episode 6 or whatever and I was like, all right, there's probably going to be like one more episode, and I clicked on them and I was like, oh man, there's 13. This is going to be like 2.5 hours of us talking about stuff. And so I figured that we should split it up, and I was like, okay, we'll watch the first 7 episodes, do a podcast about that, then the next 7, but then episodes 7 and 8 were a 2-parter, and I was like, this is gonna be so difficult. And
Well, we're making do with what we got.
yeah, I mean, more Voltron, always a good thing, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
Yes.
This video we're gonna be tackling episodes 1 through 8 of season 7 and just like giving our like point by point reactions as to like what kind of went down in each episode, our reactions, and we'll kind of like cap it off with an overall what did we think of this or of this season, and like what do we think of the show as a whole. So I think we should start off with episode 1. I wrote so many notes for this season. And episode 1, the first thing that like hit me was that I'm surprised at how much 2D animation, and this kind of I didn't think much of it in the first episode, but upon like getting through all 8 episodes of this, I kind of like thought back and I was like, wow, they did way more 2D animation in this season, and like in episode 1 it looks really good, and like that's something that I was kind of complaining about in the last podcast, was that almost all of like the action stuff was CGI, and it looks really good for CGI in anime, which makes sense because they were focusing on it. But I started to get just kind of bored of that, and I wanted to see the actual characters moving around, and they really hammered home on it. It looks a lot better than most of what they've been showing. And I mean, I've seen better, and that's because like that's not the focus. That was never like going to be all of the fight scenes are going to be between people. So it's not like the animation team was like super like we are the best at drawing people fighting each other in dynamic poses and all that. But it was still it was really refreshing for me, and that made this season and especially episode 1 stand out immediately. What did you think of that?
I like from episode 1, like I just remember watching it, and it's just like they kind of broke off. Not only like I felt like episode 1, it was kind of a good mix of like the serious tone and also the lightheartedness that we got of Voltron that we remember.
Yeah, I thought it was. I also kind of agreed with that. The only thing I was at like the pacing between like the A and B plots, or if you even consider literally just remembering Shiro's past a plot, but like it kind of seemed like they cut in between it, and I'm glad to have both of them. But I don't know, they might have been able to figure out a more organic way to make the 2 plots kind of flow into each other.
Yeah. But it was, I don't know, it was good to see the past between Shiro and Keith and kind of how they met.
That was, like, one of my first notes was just that their past is just so endearing.
Also, discovering Shiro's significant other. Like, he had a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, remember?
So I was actually doing research for a My Hero Academia video. I think it was the Toru Hagakure video, what Invisible Girl would look like if she was visible. but on like fandom.net or whatever, which is where I found it's basically the Wikipedia for anime and cartoons and stuff. And I like scrolled down, and you know how like whenever you go on like any site or whatever and you scroll all the way to the bottom, they're like, oh, this 10 interesting facts that will help you lose weight or crap like that.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, find out the sexual orientation of this Voltron member. And I was like, ooh, do tell. And then it was like, hey, the creators confirmed Shira's gay. And I was like, okay, cool. And I don't know if I would have picked up on that from the show, because they didn't like explicitly state it, and Shiro doesn't. I mean, again, or I'm not again, but like stereotypes are bad, but I would not have guessed based on how Shiro acts that he was gay, and
I mean,
this is not a bad thing. Personalities are a thing, so like, but you know,
it was kind of a weird thing to drop all of a sudden, but yeah, they haven't done anything with Adam so far. He kind of was just there, like, hey there, I'm here, so, I'm the significant other, I'm gone. And
yeah,
it's like,
I like Adam shows up, and like it kind of feels like Adam was like just put there so that people could be like, Shiro's gay, and then just like slam the door and then just like run away.
Yeah.
Like I don't see why they were doing that. Like they already have a character who's pretending to be the other gender. It's like if anybody was homophobic or something, if they thought that the ratings or something were gonna drop if they were just like Shiro's gay and we're gonna like dive into it or something, then like why make him
like,
gay at all?
Unless they do that later, like they dive more into it, but not in the first 8 episodes.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I keep forgetting that we're only like 3/4 into this season, and oh yeah, you know, when they get back to Earth, Shiro's probably gonna be like, "What's up with Adam?" Or like, "Oh, what if Adam died?" Crap.
Please no! Like they can't just introduce him.
We'll get into that later.
Boyfriend.
Oh my god, I have so much more to talk about with those last 2 episodes. But okay, so back on track with episode 1. So, I thought that the B plot of everybody else getting shrunken down was kind of needless. Like I don't even remember what they were looking for, and honestly,
they were looking for a. I forget.
They wanted to like
they were looking for a
power
thing.
up yes, they were looking for, and like this is how I know that it could have been handled better, is because it wasn't really memorable. All that you really remember is that they're small, and the only explanation is magic. I wrote this down. Magic Yalmors shrunk them down, and I wrote down like I thought there would be an explanation, but I guess Yalmors are just magic, and it was like
it was not a Yalmor. It was like a fruit. It was like a pine cone or something, I think.
But the Yalmors are the ones that like bring them back to full size, right?
No, it was the bubbles from the thing that they were eating.
Interesting. Okay. Well, either way, there wasn't
but
really...
besides the point...
Yeah, I mean, either way, there wasn't really much explanation, and it didn't leave that huge of a mark, but the flashbacks with Shiro's past life were more than enough to make up in terms of emotional satisfaction. So, also, pod racing, confirmed. That was awesome. Seeing.
And Shiro was the one that taught Keith how to do the thing.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty rad. So, I mean, the only actual other notes that I wrote down was just like really random snippets. Like I just wrote down pod racing in all caps as soon as I saw
Also
that.
confirmed that Shiro had a bad illness.
Yeah, like, okay, and this is okay. I'll get into this a lot more later, but the show is starting the spiral of not explaining stuff, and I like stuff to like. In the case of stuff that already kind of makes sense, I don't like stuff being over-explained, because that leads to like plot holes and stuff that just didn't need to be there. A prime example is The Legend of Korra. Like, no one was ever asking for like, what's the beginning of the Avatar? Like, who is the first Avatar? And then it's like, oh, well, God just fused with a person or whatever. And that's like, it doesn't make... I mean, like, it makes sense, but it just doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the story. So over-explaining stuff or explaining stuff that doesn't need to be explained can be just as bad, if not worse, than not explaining stuff. But in this season, and especially in, you know, the first episode was just kind of like foreshadowing this, but they, like, a lot of stuff just kind of wasn't explained, including Shiro's illness. And, like, immediately there's, like, kind of an excuse for it, which is, like, that he didn't want to, like, scare Keith or whatever. He was like, I have an illness. I'm going to be retired in a few years or whatever. And Keith is like, so you're still gonna go on the mission or whatever? Or like if I was Keith, I'd be like, what's the illness? Is there a cure? How did you get it? Is it genetic? Is it, like, I'd have so many more questions. And Keith is younger than me. Kids are, or I mean, at this point, Keith would have been younger than me. Kids are impulsive. He would have wanted to know more, and that would have been a really easy way for them to explain more about the illness. But they didn't. And that frustrates me, so I'm hoping they elaborate on that more. There's still the rest of the season to do this, but if they don't explain it, and I'm not really expecting them to explain it because of stuff that they didn't explain through this series. So that was frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Like, they never, like, Shiro never showed signs of being ill. Like, he
was in, like, he was in gladiator fights for like a year, and like, but soon enough he's gonna be something. Yeah, it's like he can. Like
it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because like you're telling me for a year he fought, and I guess this also kind of explains why his hair got white really fast. But still, like he was. So you're telling me that like he was already on the verge of like being too sick to pilot an aircraft, but after that, for an entire year, he's well enough.
Gladiator fights.
Yeah, against like aliens that are 3 times his size. Consistently, like this wouldn't be just like a one-time thing. This happened a lot, and like, you know, odds are like he was probably malnourished and crap. Like it's not believable for me. And
it's like, and Keith knew of the illness, and he like never told the rest of the Paladin. Like it's kind of a thing I feel like the creators kind of threw out there along with him having a boyfriend.
Yeah,
it
seems like they're kind of like
those were unnecessary plot points.
It seems like they're coming up with stuff. It seems like they're coming up with stuff on the fly, and they're like, oh, that'd be cool, let's throw it in there. And then they're like, oh yeah, but we already have this kind of like conflicting thing, and they're like, oh well, he just never really talked about that before then. All right, anyway, and like they are hoping that
move it on.
Yeah, and like I'm not saying that these plot points shouldn't be added in, but they should have a good reason to be added in, you know?
And have the proper explanation of why. Like, if Shiro was ill, explain why he still survived the gladiator fights.
Yeah.
Like, explain, does he still have it because he's in the clone body, or because it's the clone body that it did?
Oh, that'd be such a good plot point, because it's a totally different body. That's, oh my god, I never even thought about that. Holy shit, dude. Okay.
Like, I like how they had the clone body reject him. I'm glad that they did that to clear that up. But then all of a sudden, because Keith's like, I believe in you, Shiro. But Keith's so like, I believe in you, Shiro, and then the clone body's like, oh, never mind. He believes in you. I guess you could stay in here.
Yeah. I actually, like, okay. When I watched that, I was like, yeah, it makes sense that the clone body would reject him. Okay, and like nothing broke immersion. And then he just like held his hand and he was like, I believe in you. Keep fighting. You always fought for me. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense or whatever. But that, like, the motif of one character is unconscious, or like they're in a coma, or they're fighting or whatever, or somehow they're not moving or whatever. They're just battling within their mind or whatever. And then through the power of friendship, you just like believe in them and they win or something, and they can like hear you, the echoey voice that's like, you can do it, I believe in you, and they're like, oh, they're all believing in me, they need me to win, as if that person didn't know that already. It's like it's kind of overdone.
Fairy tale cough.
Come on. But nonetheless, Shiro's back, so that's good. But there could have been a more creative way to bring him back, but I mean, well, okay, the way they brought him back was creative, but those final moments did kind of like lessen the impact of like Shiro's back, he's not dead, but there's still like unanswered questions by having it just be like Deus Ex Machina.
again, they didn't do much with the clone thing. Like, that could have been
Yeah.
done more, but they didn't, and now
Mhm.
he's normal and everything's okay now.
Yeah.
And now I'm upset. Like, you're just leaving it alone?
Yeah, I want them
Like,
to expand on that a lot more.
yeah, so I'm not sure how
Okay.
I feel about this season. Like, people,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. Like, I'm not, like, so far by episode 1, there's already a bunch of plot points.
Yeah. And then
Just-
it only kind of like I will say that this season I found to be a lot funnier than the others
Yeah,
because I think it's because of them adding new characters in, and just the fact that like they've had these characters around for long enough times that it's like and especially like I noticed this immediately in episode 1 was when what's her name? Coral. It starts with a C, I think. Wait,
Ramel?
who's that? Romel? Or no? Yeah, I was thinking of Crowley or whatever.
Aurelia.
Crowley, yeah. Whatever. Keith's mom. But yeah, Ramel. There was this like one moment where she was like, "Oh wait, your friend just came back to life. You just beat a murder, you just beat Lotor or whatever, and now you're just moving on." And Hunk's like, yeah, these guys like to move on a lot. And I was like, yay, I like self-awareness. And that made me laugh. And
Yeah.
and they actually do continue the comedy. So although they have kind of faltered in some areas, and I think this is because the creators they've been making the show for a long enough time that they're confident in their writing skills and they're ready to like branch out and stuff, which I support them in doing. But you know, these things that they branched off into, they just, you know, they could have done better. And like, that's not that they should stop trying and just go back to what they were doing before, because if they did that, then we just have a repetitive series that got really boring. So I'm excited to see how they react to how everyone's reacting, or what they think of everyone's reaction to this series, to this season, and how they might adapt it or just fix up some of these plot holes as they go on it. Because like what we've been talking about, we're not like saying these are bad explanations for what's happening. We're saying there are no explanations for what's happening. So they can still explain it and totally fix the suspension of disbelief. It's just, you know, they have to explain it.
Yeah, like, I don't doubt the writers of the creators of the show, but I don't know. Like, this season, sure, it did like they trying to be serious and plot heavy at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and not sure how well that works. Like it kind of does well, but like the random like filler episode of episode 4 was kind of strange. Like,
Oh, we'll get to episode 4. We'll get to episode 4.
We'll get there, but like, was it needed?
Yeah. Speaking of episodes, I think episode 2. I mean, unless you have anything else to say about episode 1, I ran through all my notes.
Nah.
Okay. Episode
Nah.
2. The first note I wrote was just, I love Pidge. I have no idea why I wrote that. There was something that happened at the beginning of that made me want to write that. But I do love Pidge. Pidge is one of my favorite characters, although I'm kind of torn between Pidge and Space Wolf now.
His name, it wasn't, I'm pretty sure it was this episode, they or the
wanted
next
to,
episode,
yeah, it was like one of these episodes they wanted
everybody
to
but
name
Keith
him.
decided what the wolf's name was. Cosmo.
Yeah, I mean, I like that name. But
Yeah, but Keith's
I like
I
Space
felt
Wolf. I like
he's
Space
going to tell
Doggo.
me his name. Don't worry, guys. It's
Yeah. Oh man. And okay.
it's like
Oh my
he's
god.
never had a pet. He's
And-
never had a pet before.
Jeez, there's so much I want to talk about with Keith and everything. But we'll get to that. So, in episode 2, they're all essentially just going to fly back to Earth in the Lions that are now low on power. And so they're deciding, in this scene, they're like deciding who's going to go in what lion, and they have everybody all together. And it's at this point that I realize this voice cast is really solid. Like, the voices fit the characters really nicely. They're all really good at enunciating and just.
Did it curse to you now?
I mean, like, okay. I really liked the voice actors up until now, but only now that they're like all talking to each other that I'm like, wow, none of these voices sound out of place. Because like with each one, I'd be like, oh, that voice really fits that character. That voice really fits that character. But now it's like all of these voices fit all of these characters. And
yeah,
I mean, like, I guess I'm not only now just realizing it, but like the other thing is that they're introducing a bunch of new, or well, not a bunch, but they're introducing Corellia and Altean girl. What was her name? Rommel, her, yeah. And they both have really solid voice actors, and it's like I'm very confident in the fact that if they decide to add even more characters, that at the very least they will sound awesome. So that's something that I really appreciated. But yeah.
Yeah, but
let's see, what else did I
actually
write?
for me, episode 2 wasn't really that memorable.
Yeah.
I don't know. Besides the whole like lion, like who goes where thing.
Oh yeah.
And the whole gag where everybody with Pidge.
Yeah, with
But like I don't know.
This was where this episode I didn't even really take seriously because there wasn't even much going on until like the very, very end. And I started like paying attention a lot closer, or I didn't start paying attention closer, but I paid attention to like stuff that doesn't really make a big difference. And I was laughing so much in this episode because like I said out loud when they were like, oh, the wolf, I forget who the wolf was going to go with at first. I think it was going to go, actually, wait, who is it going to go with? The wolf?
I think it was Alora?
Alora? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was Alora, because she was like, it's getting restless or whatever. And, like, when that happened, I was like, it was like, if the wolf is restless, why doesn't it just teleport to Keith? And then it teleports to Keith, and I was like, awesome! Like, I love how the wolf kind of started teleporting like everybody different places. Yeah, and I was like,
cool.
I like this one. Like from the very start, I was like, I love the wolf so much, and the wolf is just making me love it so much. Cosmo or whatever. Oh my god, I love him so much. I want him as a pet. And then afterwards,
I know.
And then afterwards, when they couldn't form Voltron because they didn't have enough power, I was laughing. Like, I know it's a bad thing, but just like the extended silence is just like, that's totally what would happen if they couldn't form Voltron. Just like awkward silence, and I was laughing so hard. And then like right after that, when they were like, when they had to retreat and like go in through the caves or whatever, and they had to split up, he was like, all right, I think Shiro or Keith was like, all right, gang, split up. And I literally out loud, I was like, let's split up and look for clues.
Yeah, honestly, same.
Oh my god. And I would like, and this is all mostly just because like this stuff doesn't break the show or anything. I'm not like laughing at it because it's horribly bad or whatever. This is just like, I was paying attention to like each line as an individual line, not like how it flowed into the sentence kind of idea. Or help into the rest of what they were saying. And I laughed a lot because of that. So although this episode wasn't really the strongest, I still got to laugh at it just because of that.
There were good jokes in there that I did like, especially when they're like, wait, Pitch isn't just flying alone. Let's put all the animals with her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I had a good laugh at that. Like, this episode, like, there were moments, like, basically the entire thing was not very memorable, but, like, there were memorable moments in this episode.
Yeah, like people are gonna remember, like, oh, hey, remember that one time when this happened in the... What?
When Rommel was, like, saw a video game.
Sorry, 1 second. What?
There's pizza up here if you want it.
Alright. Sorry. That was my sister. Okay. Sorry, what were you saying?
You were saying, like, hey, remember that one time?
Yeah. So, like, people are probably going to be like, hey, do you remember that one time from this episode? But they're not going to remember, like, what episode it was from, probably.
Yeah.
but yeah, okay, what else was I gonna? Oh yeah, so the other part that I was laughing hysterically at was when the one like bandit or whatever like jumped onto the green line or whatever, whichever one Shiro was in, or black lion, which Shiro and Keith and his mom were in. And Shiro stands up and he goes, "I'll take care of this." And I almost fell out of my chair and I was just like screaming, "You have one arm, dude."
Me.
What do you think is gonna happen up there? Like,
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, Shiro, you dumbass. What are you thinking? You're just gonna like,
and then
throw
yeah,
your
and then
arm at him?
and then Crowley, she's just like sit down, Shiro. I'll take care of this or whatever. And then Karan obviously follows her and he gets knocked into the closet. And then I also laughed because this is a really, really well done joke. And I'll tell you why, is because we all know that Karan is a horrible fighter. And when he goes, "Hey, I'll come up and help you," she's kind of like, okay. Like, we all know that he's going to be no help immediately. And then immediately when they're running out, he just gets shoved into the closet. And I was like, that's the equivalent of him having actually gone out there and helped her. And then it actually turns into something where he's the only one who isn't captured. And I was like, that was a really good joke, because like that's part of what people are going to find really memorable about this episode. And they're going to be like, yeah, like, and then when everybody gets captured, they're going to be like, wait, but Karan is in the closet. And then they're like, you were correct. Karan is in the closet. You get 5 points. Ding, ding. And then more stuff happens. And that was real. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, I thought this episode was kind of boring, but also really, really hilarious. So take that for however you want. Then they do get captured by the Galra, and that moves on that transitions nicely into episode 3, which. And yeah, my first note was very smart with Karan in the closet or whatever, and so that same point.
Yeah, like honestly, like when they're like everybody's been captured, I see the room. I'm like, wait, where's Karan? And then they show the closet. I'm like,
and I was like,
still in the closet.
I was like, ah ha ha, funny joke and also good plot point. So
Karan still didn't do anything, which was so funny. It was the mice.
Oh my god, yeah, and then the mice too. But oh man, Karan is just such a personality. I love watching him. But then okay, so like the Lotor's lackeys or
generals.
And there was Ezor, who was the girl with like the head tail thing, and then there was
I forget her name.
all I really remember was Ezor, because I just wrote down I like Ezor.
That is Ezor.
Who?
I think.
The one with the tail thing?
Ezor is the one with the weird ponytail. Zenthrid is the furry.
Yeah.
And Axia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's the one who turns
whatever,
good. Aksha, I think? I have no idea.
Aksha is the Golra that kind of looks like Keith and Keith's mom.
Yeah.
Which isn't actually his sister, despite the fandom thinking so.
Which isn't actually his sister, despite literally everyone trying to confirm that it is. Anyway.
Just because she kind of looks like him.
That's such a fandom thing to do. Okay, but as soon as Ezor, like, I always liked Ezor. Like, I just like her character design and the way that she is, because she reminds me of Ty Lee from Avatar: The Last Airbender, just in like the way.
Yeah, she does.
And like they kind of sound similar. I don't know. I mean, like, but they have like they have a really similar personality, and I love that, because like I love the cheery, and I mean like generally it's a girl or whatever, but like cheery character who's always upbeat and like really friendly towards the people that generally they're gonna be, in this case, torturing. It's just a joy to watch, and it's hilarious for me, because she's just like, when do we get to start torturing them? And I was like, I like her. And I don't like her because of the intentions, but I like her. And then...
Honestly, that's such a mood.
Oh my god. But yeah, she is incredibly fun to watch. And especially I also really like her existence just because she flips around a lot and she does a lot of like action-y stuff and like martial arts and crap like that, which means more 2D animation, which I like. So, yay Azor.
Yeah.
Good job existing.
Okay, so when I first watched this episode, I was thinking, wait, is Ezor and Zenthrid, are they a couple?
Yeah. I get that.
My thought, why I thought this was because, I don't know, I was kind of like thinking, like, she's like, do you trust me? And she's like, yeah, it's like, that's, I don't know, just some of the stuff like they said to each other kind of like seemed like, are you two a couple or something?
Lampchan, you are the most important person in my life. TV Senpai, I care about you so much.
Yeah, but besides that, episode 3, I felt like it was a decent episode. We get
yeah, I thought it was
on the team. I'm not sure if I can trust her yet, though.
Yeah, similar and like yeah. I mean, I hope they don't keep doing this, and I don't expect them to keep doing this because like how many characters can they do with that? Like, I guess they could probably do it with Hagar and like the rest of and Ezor and other Nea. But like I think they're smart enough to not do that because we did this with Lotor and we kind of did it with Shiro. Like everybody else was like, oh yeah, Shiro's still a good guy, but we were all like, oh, but he's a clone or whatever, and he just escaped, and they were like, oh, project whatever. And so that was kind of a thing for the audience, but not the characters. And then with Lotor, it was a thing for the characters and the audience, but it was obvious that he was evil, at least for me. And I mean, I'm not getting that sense with Axia, yeah. But I mean, she's only been good for half an episode, so.
Unlike Lotor, she does go back and forth on sides. So, as we see, so it's like, I'm not sure if I can trust her because of how quickly she does switch these sides.
Yeah. And I mean, and yeah, nothing.
Besides that.
And like, I'd say nothing really jumps out about her character. Like, she's not like super nice or quirky or like energetic or anything.
She's kind of a bland character for me right now.
Yeah. So I mean, her actions are what's going to define whether or not people like her, and not just the way she acts on a moment-to-moment basis. So we'll see about that. But that's just something that'll have to develop, and we'll see.
Branching off of Axia, like leaving her there.
Yeah.
This episode was good, and
I liked it.
Like had the whole like Korran having to save everyone, but it's technically the mice.
I thought I don't like. I feel like it should be cliche to like just watch the bumbling fool character just kind of like be an idiot and like act drunk or whatever. But for some reason, and I don't even know why, it was just hilarious with Korran. And like I think it's just because he's Korran.
Yeah,
and like
because
it's even
we know him. We know that he's
exactly
he can like do things, but like.
And like I've even seen like the exact same joke. I forget where exactly, but like whenever everybody else catches up with them after they break out of their prison cell, and like they pick him up or whatever, and like Keith has him on his shoulder or something, and he's like, hey Korran, nice job stalling him or whatever, and he's like, yeah, thank you, Princess Allura, or whatever. I've heard that exact same joke in other shows, but I laughed this time, and I don't know why, and like I was like, that was really funny. What are they doing to my mind? But regardless,
I think
it was
like,
funny.
When he said, "I thank you, Princess Allura," when like I think it was Keith was holding him, I was kind of thinking of how Allura had to play Keith in that one episode in like season 5, and so I'm like, oh, the tables have turned.
The tables have turned. Oh, that was. Do you think they were thinking of that when they did this moment?
Maybe.
That just seems like something they do. It doesn't even make a difference. It's just like for moments like this where people can realize that. I hope they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. But then let's see. So I wrote down, how did the mice take down the guard? I still don't get
Snapped
that.
his neck.
They
He's
snapped his
dead.
neck.
They snapped his neck.
I can just imagine the mice like crawling up his back or whatever. One of them like crawls up the wall and like waves at him to distract him, and then like the bigger one just like he like rubs his hands together, snap, just like twists his neck. Oh my god.
They're...
Those mice. I don't want them as an enemy. Oh my god.
They probably actually didn't, but like just the thought of
Just
them
the
snapping.
thought. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway. Oh yeah. I also thought it was funny that everybody knows who Blofar is, who is the guy that Karan stole his suit, or whatever. Which
Yeah, because of the scarf.
they're just
It's
like
isn't
everybody
that
was just like,
his-
hey, that's Blofar's scarf, and I was like, I want to know who Blofar is. He sounds like a pretty cool guy if he plays like space checkers with everybody or something like that. Or but like I don't know. He seemed like a cool guy. He didn't deserve
If
to be.
everybody knew him, yeah, he
It's-
seems like a pretty cool dude to hang out with.
He's my favorite character already. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, what else? Oh yeah. One thing I did notice was like there was the fight scene with Zoar, Furry Girl, and Keith and his mom. I think that was everybody. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. But the point is that I noticed that although this was like 2D animation, and I really liked this fight scene, it was a very refreshing just because I liked the 2D animation. I did notice, however, that it's clear to me that the animators of this show, their specialty is not like energetic 2D animation stuff, or like maybe that's not the best way to frame it, but like the best example that I can give is that when you watch over this episode, and like now that you've noticed this, you probably won't be able to unnotice it for the rest of the show, but the camera does not ever, and if it does, it's very rarely rotate. So like you always get characters that are like, you get characters moving around a lot, but it always is like, it feels like it's across a two-dimensional plane. And I especially got this when the big muscular furry Galra girl, she would do like her shoulder plow attack or whatever, and it was always just like from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, or sometimes it was from the right to the left or whatever, but it was always just like one side of the screen to the other, and it would hit them, and then they would go flying in the direction that she was going, and she would stop, and it felt static to me, and so I'm not like saying that this is bad animation, but I've seen better, you know, and it makes sense that it makes sense that they wouldn't put all of their budget into the 2D animated fights, because that's not the most
Their
important
main
part.
focus. It's literally.
But it's just something
in
that
the
I
title.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What?
Okay, so I wrote this note. I flipped the page. I totally forgot about it. I like said at the beginning that I was going to get to this. What was going on with Keith teleporting his Bayard? What, like, it's totally out of nowhere. There's no explanation. And like,
Maybe it's like a thing he saw in like
oh my god,
the future whale thing.
I know, like, but like there was no like they could have had like
no
a
explanation. It just
flashback,
happened.
and like we know that this wasn't like some sort of power that he picked up from the wolf or whatever, because it goes into like aspect ratio mode, and he's like concentrate, focus, and then it just appears in his hand. I was like, what? Like, I was totally speechless, and this just like continues to hammer home the whole like they're not explaining stuff, and I want them to explain stuff, and I was just like I was impressed. I was impressed that they had the balls to do that without like any explanation whatsoever. But that doesn't undo the fact that they did this with no explanation whatsoever, and I'm just amazed.
But there should be an explanation.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. I'm assuming that we'll figure it out eventually, but like at least hint at it, you know? At least hint at what it could be so that we can speculate. Well, accurately
It was out of
speculate,
nowhere,
instead of just
and
throwing darts in the dark.
Like, unless he saw his future self on the space whale do it, I'm not sure how he could have possibly knew how to do it.
He just like sees his future self teleporting and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, how do you do that?" And he's like, "Oh, well, let me teach you. Close your eyes,
that's not-
go into aspect ratio mode."
That's not how it. That's not.
Unless
It's like he's
he saw
talking,
that
like-
vision in the past, and then 3 years later, he turned around and talked to his past self, knowing that his past self would have a vision of that moment. Back to the Future stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I was like I just went numb after that. Like, I was so exasperated, but anyway,
Yeah,
I
maybe
guess
that's why there was a filler episode in literally the next episode, because
just
of
to
all the
like calm
bullshit that
everyone,
they
just to calm
pulled.
everyone down.
Like, we know we threw a lot of stuff at you guys, but here's this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that was all I had. I wrote down explain the time traveling, please, and they didn't. Well, actually,
Oh,
with Voltron after they fought Lotor, 3 decathebes later, which I looked up is the equivalent to about 3 years. They were just they time traveled.
It says
'Kay.
about 3 years, but like in the description of like the episode The Last Stand Part 1 on Netflix, it says 4 years earlier.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, yeah. Pidge says like 3. I don't know. Maybe they were. I don't know. Maybe it was just a fall. I don't know. Decathebes to years. We don't know what the exact translation is.
See,
So
it
who
says
really
4
knows?
years because it takes about a year to get to Earth.
That's true.
And maybe in the next episodes, that's how
so,
long it takes.
yeah.
They're back on Earth.
That makes sense. Yeah, we can assume that they were like disappeared or whatever. They time traveled 3 years in the future, and then what we see happens over about the course of a year. So, but yeah, they don't explain how the time traveling happened, and I'm calling it right now that it's going to be like, oh, the energy or whatever, or so it's going to be unexplained magic. That's like, it's just going to be like some force of energy sent them into like a parallel time thing, and now they're in the future.
I think it's just the quintessence field just has a different time rate that.
Actually, yeah, I get that. That kind of makes sense. So, like, whenever they would go in and out of the quintessence field, they jump forward.
But that also doesn't make sense, because when the first Paladins went through it, like it was practically the same amount of time, and there wasn't a time.
How are they gonna get past these plot holes? Oh my god!
Like, I love Voltron, but like so far this season has really downgraded its rating, because of all these plot holes that aren't explained.
They really need to. It's just not explaining stuff that should be explained, and it's making me mad. But like at this point, unless we're just missing something, then the only like feasible way that they can have this like make sense is either A, random magic that just happens, which is bad for a reason that I'm going to talk about in 1 second, or B, there was some sort of like third party that saw the battle or whatever, had some sort of ulterior motive and had time traveling capabilities and fast forward them in the future for some reason.
Hagar?
Maybe. Yeah, we haven't really heard from Hagar in this season, so maybe she has time traveling powers. But like, you know, they're gonna have to explain that, and I'm not really confident in their ability to explain stuff right now. But who knows?
When she gained back her old Taiyan form, she didn't just all of a sudden die.
But oh yeah. So yeah, and then the first thing, which is just like random magic. The reason that I don't like random magic is because whenever there's any sort of like plot hole that they can just be like, oh, magic and it's fixed kind of idea, is that like.
But then like when they don't do it, they question it. It's like, why can't you do it? She's like, oh, it's like
Yeah,
people like
and
Allura
I
who
am
can do the magic.
Oh my god!
She's like, oh, I can't. That's the best.
I get so mad watching the scene in episode 5 where Allura, they're all like trapped in that like weird bubble field that just like freezes them, and Allura just like makes it go away by concentrating, putting like the time energy or whatever, freezing energy in her fist, and then she just punches the ground. Like, where did we like win? Why? Like, there's no explanation, and it's so frustrating because now whenever there's any kind of And this happened when she was like when she basically brought Shiro back to life, or like put his consciousness inside his body or whatever. Like, just it completely takes like now whenever they're in a tough situation, I'm gonna be like, oh, Allura, pull some magic out of your ass or whatever. And then when they
because Allura has
because
the magic
she's done
from,
it before.
I feel like the whole White Lion thing was just so they can bullshit the magic way.
Oh my god, it's so. Oh my god. I'm just like, I'm trying not to get pissed off.
Like, they overpowered her too much.
It's, oh my god, it's so frustrating. But, okay.
It really is.
Okay.
Let's just move on.
Let's move on to Garfle
Episode
Warfle Snick. Oh boy.
My favorite episode so far.
I unironically kind of like this episode. And almost all, like,
I love the bring back of Bebo B.
Yeah, like, literally, at the very start, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be more filler. But the thing is, this was before I realized that this season had 13 episodes, and one of the big reasons that I didn't like filler in the last season was because you're taking up,
that many episodes.
Yeah, you're taking up, like, that's another slot of, like, those 7 episodes that you just don't get. But now that there's, like, more time and they're, like, giving themselves more episodes, to work on this, it's a lot more acceptable to have filler episodes. And, you know, I mean, essentially, these, like, all the episodes up until, like, they could have pretty easily just been, like, fast forward a year kind of idea, or just, like, had, like, a montage. And in one episode, they went from, like, the first episode in this series where they're, like, getting everybody, or when they're, like, gathering everybody up at the Lions, which I think was episode 2. So they could, like, have just done that really quickly, gotten everybody to Earth, and now we start fighting or whatever. But they actually, like, took time and kind of allowed the characters to, like, reminisce and talk about what could be happening and just, like, figure stuff out. And although along the way they bring up a lot of stuff to, like, build up tension for each mini story, which are pretty disconnected, which aggravate me, I'm still glad that they decided not to rush into the Earth battle, even though I think they could have done it in a better way. But with Garfle Warfle Snick, this episode, there is no reason for this episode to exist, and somehow the creators definitely knew this, and they were just like,
okay, I feel like it was for shipping fuel, okay? Like, the whole, like, it's like they...
oh my god, I wrote down, when Bob hits on Hagar, I wrote down, let me see some Bob X Hagar Rule 34.
Okay, no, but not just that, the whole, like, after they realized, we're never going back to the Balmero, so let's ship Hunk with Pidge, like... There was kind of that in this episode, and the whole, like, Lance.
It was just, like,
Keith,
entirely
like,
fan service. Like, it was just like, you know, you guys love this character, we're gonna bring back Bebo B. Like, that's, like, oh my god. And
I think they just wanted to bring back Bebo B because it's voiced by Jeremy Shada, who's also Lance, and it's their favorite bloopers of the entire show. Yeah. It's just Jeremy Shada, who's Lance, going, Bebo B!
And this was also the episode that housed one of my favorite jokes in the entire series, which is when the fake Zarkon and Lotor, when they bring up, like, the fakes, Lotor's like, when they're doing the drawing contest, Lotor's like, I practiced drawing for like so many years or whatever, and then he, like, looks over at Zarkon and he's like, but Zarkon wouldn't let me turn it into a career. He wouldn't let me go to art school. And Zarkon's like, I'm not gonna let you go into a failing career. And I was dying at that because, like, I
thought this like the animators
it works especially well on me because I love art, and I know, like, that art's not, I mean, like, not that art isn't a feasible career. Like, plenty of people make good money on art, but in all honesty, it's probably more consistently, you're probably going to be more consistently successful if you don't put everything into art, but, like, still, like, I was just dying at that joke. Oh my god. And again, it's just and like I can't deny that the fact that this is the two most evil characters in the entire series making this joke, which makes it that much more funny, and the fact that it's a father-son relationship, which is totally realistic. It was hilarious. Oh my god. And oh my god. I kind of want to rewatch this episode
Yeah, this episode was full of so many laughs. Like when they're all like choosing who to vote off. Like when Keith's like, Bob's like, you chose Lance. Why? And Keith and like Lance's like, oh, you do care. And Keith's all like, no, I just want to spend the rest of the eternity here with you.
It's hilarious. That's why
I 2 years like. Keith spent 2 years without him. Why are you being such a
This is how to do filler correctly. I loved this episode.
But one problem I did have with it is, why isn't Keith treating all like the Paladins nicer? Because he hasn't seen them in 2 years.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe they like had time to talk or whatever on the way, because we don't know.
Or
we don't
like
really know how much time.
he saw the future. Like, so he might have, like, knew what was going to happen, so he's like, I'm just going to act the same, whatever.
Yeah, there's probably going to be some plot point that's like, oh, Keith saw the future, now he knows what to do or whatever they're going to do. There's, when they get back to Earth, or when they fight at Earth, it's probably going to be revealed that, like, Keith had some sort of vision about the future, and it's going to be like, guys, we need to do this. It doesn't make sense, but trust me, I had a vision, or something like that. But anyway,
Yeah. Like... You had a place where you could see the future. I bet that was supposed to be like developing the relationship between Keith and Corellia, but you can use that for more plot points. But like, don't do it so much as like
totally.
They haven't done it so far, but like I'm really hoping that they don't push it like too far, in which Keith's like ordering everybody like, oh, I saw the future. Like, just something, like, maybe as a fun little gag, like, Keith, like,
they definitely cannot do this, like, more than once. But...
I can get it if they do it, like, once, maybe twice. If it's, like,
it'd make
the second
sense.
time's, like, for a gag.
Yeah, like, it would make sense, and then, like, again,
like,
as if it was
telling a joke, and Keith's, like, says the punchline, and it's like, how did you know? And Keith's like, oh, I saw it.
That would be a good joke. I actually kind of hope they do that. Or if...
Yeah,
it's gonna be joke. It's gonna be, like, 8 seasons later, and, like, and Keith's just gonna go, bless you, and then someone's gonna sneeze, and he's gonna be like, I saw a vision. I saw, like...
No, it's like Lance is about to tell a joke,
sight.
and then Keith's like, oh, wait, it's this, isn't it? And Lance is like, how the frick? And Keith's like, I don't know, future, I guess.
Future vision, dude. Okay. But then, so then this incredible Garfle Warfle Snick episode caps off with possibly the best way that it could have, revealing that Bob is in fact a god. I want all gods to be like Bob. I was screaming at my monitor. I was like, yes, this is the perfect way to make a filler episode. Like, this was perfect.
He's secretly
oh my god.
I am a god, and
I want all gods to be like Bob.
I wasn't expecting that. I just thought he kind of kidnapped them in their sleep.
Yeah, and, like, that's what would have made sense.
Not that he was just a god.
Like, oh my god. And they kind of even tied it in, because they were like, oh, he only, like, people who he finds to be worthy or whatever, he lets go or whatever. And it was like, yeah, okay, now we can go back to the story. I'll miss you, Bob. But
hopefully he gets mentioned again.
Oh my god. I love this episode so much. All right. Moving on to episode 5. This is the episode where Pidge picks up on a distress signal from the Blades of Marmora. So they go to investigate, and flipping my page of notes. And so they go to investigate, and they find supposedly one of the last Blades of Marmora member still alive, and it's seen. And so the Galra attacked them. He was the last survivor, and I kind of like this. Like, it's like the lone survivor of a brutal attack is like nothing new. But I still thought that, like, the fact that everyone loves the Blades of Marmora, and like I love them. All of the episodes that include the Blades of Marmora, in my opinion, have been above average episodes. So this was a hard hit when I heard that the Blades of Marmora had been wiped out. However, of course, we then do find out that he's lying, and that there are still Blades of Marmora out there, but they have been decreased in numbers because of this guy. So it's still a heavy hit. It's not like it's just, haha, you cared about the Blades of Marmora, stupid you, they're fine, or whatever. Like, it's still this is still very bad. And that's good that they're making me feel bad. But but this is, and then this is also the episode where Allura just ass pulls her way out of...
Does a thing that's not explained how she can do the thing.
Why? Oh my god. I wrote down, like, something, I forget what it was, but something happened, like, just before this that was also explained, and this was the point where I had noticed that they weren't explaining a lot of stuff, and I was getting annoyed by it, and I wrote down, should I just stop questioning when magic key stuff happens? And then Allura did that, and I wrote down, yes, I should. And they...
Yeah, like, but one thing I did like about this episode, it made me realize, wait, now that Lotor is gone, Sendek could be, like, start being in charge, and now the Blade of Marmora is wide open. They're not secret anymore.
This episode... So this episode continued to do some of the things that we were aggravated by, but what happened in the episode, regardless of those things, is still huge. So... I really liked this episode just because of the impact that it's had, because like I said, these past episodes, you probably could have condensed them all into one episode, so it kind of it's a change of pace, and I liked them kind of slowing down and being like, this is kind of what's happening in between the giant missions, is these smaller things that they just have to take care of, or what happens in between, while they're road tripping kind of idea, or space road tripping, whatever. And that's part of why this came as such a shock, and the whole putting out a distress signal, and the characters realizing that it's a Blades of Marmora signal comes as a genuine shock to them, and comes as a genuine shock to us. So it does a really good job at making us feel the same way as the characters, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the stuff done in this episode was right, the fight scene, with Keith teleporting with the wolf, that was super cool.
That was such a creative idea.
And with the thing with them seeing, the Blade of Marmora is open now, that's why they're all gone. It's that's such a good plot point. That's just such a good thing that we did. I forgot that, the Blade of Marmora did open themselves up, and Lotor became Emperor. And just knowing what happened to them, it was so good. It did hit hard, but then there was the kind of other things, the undescribed, how Laura can do the thing. Why did she do that?
Honestly,
this episode was decent.
Yeah, the bad and the good stuff. There is bad and good stuff about this episode, and I think that if you want to rewatch this entire series or whatever, after, I'm assuming eventually there will be some sort of explanation for how Allura does the magic-y stuff, unless we just assume it's crap Altean magic or whatever, which would be equally frustrating than no explanation at all. Then this will be a more tolerable episode because it'll make sense. But as of now, we have no reason to think that the creators of the show are even gonna explain it, because they've done so much other stuff and just not explained it right away. So we're either gonna have to wait probably a really long time, or it's never gonna be explained, both of which are not very good options. So yeah. That's all I really had to say for episode 6. It was honestly, the best way I can describe it is just more fan service, because we met back up with beloved characters, and we got to see the ever-waited Keith and Space Doggo teleporting teamwork fight scene,
Yeah.
which is
I
really
feel like
cool.
this episode was also a way to get rid of Crolia, because
Yeah,
the
she
creators
hadn't been
probably
doing
realized,
really.
oh, she's such a badass character.
Yeah.
We can't have her here.
Yeah, she definitely.
Or she has like a bigger role like behind the scenes later on.
Definitely.
But right now, not really.
Plus it's just like this is just more fuel for like possible Keith drama of him. Like, I'm like, this is speculation, but it's possible that somehow the, like, let's say the clone body or whatever ends up actually rejecting Shiro's consciousness, and then he loses Shiro again, and he'll have like kind of a meltdown because he's losing everyone who's like closest to him or whatever, being his mentor and his mother, and he already lost his father, and he's probably gonna, that would probably include the dog, which will be most tragic. But it's I'd say it was a good move to get rid of her, to send her off, because
I like how Keith gave his knife to her.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing he had his whole life, that like the one piece of thing he had of his mother, and like having him actually tell her that he loved her, like that was so much growth for Keith. And I'm like, I wasn't in tears, but like,
yeah, I mean, same here. I was just
it
like,
was super like emotional.
it was definitely the right
like
choice.
just seeing Keith give like, it's his mom. He's telling, like, she's leaving him again, but like he knows she's coming back.
Yeah.
And like it's so beautiful.
All right.
But yeah.
Yes, that was
Not like that
all of
beautiful, but
my
like
notes.
in a way, if you think about it more, like that knife he had his whole life.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
very,
yeah,
it's
totally.
one of like a treasure possession. Having him give it off, and actually, like, he doesn't say "I love you" to people that often. Only like his brother,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which is Shiro, and now it's his mom, and that just shows that he actually, I don't know. Or I could just overthinking it, but like I feel like like it shows the growth in his character. He's not the edgy
Being
person
worried
who
about
pushes people
overthinking
away.
stuff.
He let her in.
If we were worried about overthinking stuff, we would have never started this series of podcasts.
Probably.
Okay. But episode 6, I literally titled, I did episode 6, and then I titled it Unexplained Space Stuff. And
It's another filler episode.
oh,
like
my
literally.
goodness. Okay, so I will say, I really, really like just like the casual conversation that they have at the beginning of this episode, and then it all goes spiraling down the toilet because this big white space storm thing comes over, just like washes over them and separates them from the lions. And I wrote down, I bet that's not going to be explained. And guess what? I was right.
I know.
And actually, I also wrote, is this going to be a simulation? Because at the beginning of the episode, they were doing a simulation, and it reminded me of Rick and Morty and that meme where he goes, you're inside a simulation, inside a simulation, inside a simulation, and just continue doing that. And I thought that was funny, but still, anyway, so they get separated from the lions, and at this point, I had already figured that it wasn't going to be explained in this. I mean, this episode is very predictable. You can tell everything that's going to happen. So as soon as they all start like drifting off, and they start doing, the space madness thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they're going to get in a fight because of space madness. They get in a fight because of space madness and stuff. They find Earth. I immediately say Earth is fake. Earth turns out to be fake. I called it. And then like the other thing is that they get like these baggy eyes because space madness or whatever, and not because they're like tired or whatever. And then as soon as
how long they've been floating there.
But then like as soon as they're all like not mad at each other anymore, the baggy eyes just go away, which I kind of laughed at. But I was like, oh, very clever, sarcastic, slow clap, nice job. And then
it's never explained how long they were floating in space for, and that kind of is concerning.
I mean, but it's like, why did the baggy eyes just go away once they were happy with it? I don't know. But then they get the lions back after more space storm unexplained crap, and then another 45 seconds of forming Voltron, this would be a much more impactful moment of actually like they can form Voltron again, if they weren't spending another 45 seconds doing it. Because whenever I get this cutscene, I skip through it because we've seen it so many times. And, like, it looks really nice. Like, they went through a lot of effort putting this Voltron forming animation together, and it looks awesome. But, like,
But every time it's 40 seconds.
yeah, it's like I've seen it so many times before to a point where regardless of how many times I see it,
Like, if
the
this was
fact
a
that it
show
looks
that was
awesome
on TV,
just-
I would understand, like, for other people.
Yeah, like I could totally
It's TV.
like I could totally
But, like,
see
this
it
is on Netflix.
being like
It's not needed.
yeah, like I could totally
feel
see
like.
it being like a like once every season or like ever at the like after they haven't formed Voltron for a while, then you can be like, yeah, we form it or whatever. And they haven't formed Voltron for a while, but they played this exact same cutscene like almost on an episodic basis for the first like
Maybe they
season.
should change up, like, the cutscene a little bit. Like,
yeah,
keep it,
like
like,
they,
the
yeah,
same
I'd say,
general-
and like this would be such an easy thing to do is just like keep them like just take a shorter version of the music or whatever, cut down the editing or whatever, so it's just like the lions flying together, and then Voltron is there, and like we know that
Or,
it happens
it's
instantly
3D
in universe.
The Voltron forming thing is 3D animated, correct? That
Is
means
it?
it's in a 3D plane. Then if you want, like, how about you change up it a little and move the camera?
Yeah, and that would be such a cool thing. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty yeah. Like seeing I think part of it is 3D animated, and then like when you see all the gears coming into place inside of it, I think that's 2D
That's
animated.
2D animated.
But like that stuff looks awesome. They can keep that. That's
But, like-
that's the part that I just love
But
seeing
maybe
every
to
time.
change it up a little, like the whole forming
yeah, like,
Voltron. Keep, like, the
Change
elements
the
there,
camera
but,
angle.
like,
That would be super cool.
like, I love that, but they don't do that.
And it's the same. It's, but it's just annoying. But then, and then I just wrote, I was right about the unexplained space storm, by the way, and those are all of my notes for this episode. This episode did nothing except,
filler. It's
it
just
literally
filler.
just let them form Voltron again. But in doing so,
get
I
closer
was
to the team or
extremely
whatever.
disappointed that they made that they like this whole episode was like building up to like, oh man, they're fighting with each other or whatever, and it's now they're camaraderie and crap, and now they can form Voltron again, and I was like, that's cool, but you're annoying me in the process, so it's not as cool. Like, so this was in my opinion, this was probably the weakest episode in this season so far, which would be the if you're wondering, the second weakest episode in my opinion would have been episode 2, I think, or no wait, that was the one that I was laughing hysterically. Episode 1 I thought was wait, which one? I forget.
Wait.
Which one? I have my notes
yeah.
here and I still can't even find it because I just wrote down so much stuff.
I think it was either episode 2 or episode 3.
Yeah, whichever one I wasn't laughing at. I think that was episode 3.
Episode, like, 3.
Yeah, that was them escaping the Galra ship or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, like this episode is not very good if you ask me.
Yeah,
It was-
episode 6.
yeah.
I wasn't very happy with it at all.
It was
I
predictable
think it,
and
it was
it
just
didn't-
filler. It's
yeah.
like I get that you have 13 episodes, but is really 2 fillers back to back really necessary?
Was this back to back? Episode 4 was Garfle, Warfle, Snick or whatever, and then this is episode 6. Episode
Like, it's literally
5
back to back.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, they
Like-
do. It's not, like it's not literally, but like, yeah, episode 4 and
It's
6,
so
they're very close to each other,
It's like
and especially coming off
you
of
could have
a powerful hitting episode. Like even though episode 5 has the annoying bits and possibly, in my opinion, the most annoying bit with Allura just doing Allura magic, it still manages to be, in my opinion, a lot better than episode 6 because the highs far outweigh the lows, even though the lows are pretty low. This episode is just like all medium and predictable, and then it's supposed to be high, but it just like completely lets me down, and thus it ends up being like that happened. Like this part, you could have literally just said, then they went into space, almost went mad, didn't, now they can form Voltron, and you've essentially summarized accurately the entire episode, because nothing else that happens in this episode matters, and I know that it's never going to come up again. So why? This whole episode could have been one
Yeah.
30-second scene. So anyway, now moving on to episodes 7 and 8, which, in my opinion, these were some of my favorite episodes in the entire series so far. And
Like, definitely.
kind of like it's man, it's so hard to explain because they're so like it's just so different from the rest of the show because
like we get to, like I like I like how it strayed like away from the paladins.
Yeah, it
and
was
more so
very,
on
it
like
was
what
so refreshing.
happened on Earth, like with Sam and stuff. Like I was kind of curious, like what would happen. Like were they gonna do the same thing they did with Shiro to Sam?
Yeah, and like this is just the creators of the show knowing what we want to see because there's so much unexplained stuff that's happening back at Earth because like this is a like advanced civilization Earth, and like even though the aliens are far more advanced than Earth is now, their Earth is more advanced than we are in present day, so it's still really interesting to see what they are doing, and especially when they get Altean pod technology and just like how they deal with the knowledge that aliens exist. And I just wrote down like finding out Earth's situation is good. Let's see where this goes. And honestly, I am just so happy with how much the actions of the people in this episode make logical sense. Like because this is a really huge problem that I have with a lot of shows that have like authority figures that just don't act like realistic authority figures. But in this show, and I was worried that they were going to do that because this is like a TV7 show, so a lot, and I guarantee that, like, I mean, quote unquote target audience kids, which is this show obviously is not, its target audience is obviously not 7-year-olds, but still,
I know, because of like torture scenes and stuff. It's like, oof, that's not a thing for 7-year-olds.
Yeah,
but yeah,
but like still, this stuff is just going to be flying over like kids that are watching the show, and like kids are going to watch this show, but like this is, the stuff, the actual like information that's being presented to us is like stuff that would be like a PG-13 level of intelligence, and I'm assuming that that's flying over the people who are not that old yet. But for me anyway, I found it incredibly engaging, because I love it when I think of something about a show, like why don't they just do this, or why doesn't this character say this, and then they say that, and that happened so much in these episodes, and I'm so happy about that. It like,
yeah, like
there was never
like
a moment where I was like, that's stupid or whatever. It all made sense, and this was even better because these are adult characters, and this is what these adult characters should be doing.
Like exactly, like when like it made, like for me it made sense the government wasn't gonna tell the people that aliens exist because it's gonna cause a worldwide panic.
I love the ethical dilemma that presents of like, should they go out to help the other aliens, because like, even though they're not on Earth, it's like, what's the difference between them and like saving animals that live on Earth or whatever? But then again, their top priority, a lot of people would argue, should be protecting humans on Earth or whatever. But then other people would argue that it's also their responsibility to protect order in the galaxy, because if they don't, then that could spread and end up causing a lot of lives, including lives on Earth. So it's like, what do you do? And I love that ethical dilemma and how there are multiple sides, because you can have a perfectly logical explanation for wanting to either tell the world that aliens exist and wanting to go out and fight, or wanting to stay back and protect Earth because you want to protect Earth or whatever.
And then and then also the fact that, like, should we help these aliens because I don't know, just like because we were already told that we're not skilled enough. So what is our help gonna do? That's also a thing that's kind of talked about a little bit.
I love the maturity. I love how they didn't shy away from like trying to put it in kid terms or whatever, because that wouldn't make it feel realistic, but it does, and I love it. I love these episodes. Like, and I'm also
it shows kind of like taking the best people in the class and like making these machines like better than they could ever do, and the fact that Pidge's parents, they're like, we have to tell the world we're not progressing fast enough.
And and the other thing is that these 2 episodes single-handedly like subvert the what I like to call the academy or academia trope that's kind of been a thing, which is where you focus on characters while they're in like school or while they're being mentored to learn this stuff, and like that's a good thing. But usually those kinds of shows end with them like graduating or like, you know, it's like, then I went and, you know, became the greatest hero, or I went and, you know, I finished high school or whatever. But we rarely ever see them after that, and for me that's what really makes the ending satisfying. But with these 2 episodes, the cadets that like we saw in flashbacks with Keith, they're now like pilots. They're on the front lines, and like they are still called cadets, but like it really doesn't.
They still are the cadets.
Yeah, but they're going
on
missions, and it's like even though their title is still cadet, effectively they are like the best quote like soldiers or like troops that they have, which makes it feel like they have graduated, and in a sense they have, because now they're taking on like these real missions. And when they went to that like cargo area or whatever so that they could pick up supplies and bring it back, like that's a real mission. That's not like a practice thing or like something that like they're trying to learn from this experience. This is like important that they get this right this time, and this is something that like professional people in this job would be doing. And it's so satisfying for me, even though we've only known these characters for like, you know, 20 minutes total, you know, if you put together everything. And they were side characters, mostly in flashbacks and mostly just from, mostly in flashbacks. And even this whole thing, this whole 2-parter is a flashback, but it's still so satisfying to see them like, they have essentially graduated and they're doing what they set out to do from the start. Which I love.
Like these 2 episodes, like I can't explain it, but like there's a lot of stuff that's so good about it, and it kind of just fills in the spaces of what happened. And so like when we get to Earth, we're like, hey, what happened here? We know what happened, and like because we saw it happen.
Yeah, and I'm assuming.
But we get to, and when I don't know. I just hope that like they don't have to when the Paladins get to Earth.
Yeah,
that like
that would
skip
probably be
over the
Although,
explaining it part.
Yeah, and like that was
like I don't know
one like slight like I don't know if this is even a plot hole because this whole thing is a flashback. I'm assuming specifically for the audience. I think in like the description thing on the Netflix like episode description or whatever, it's like it's like the team is debriefed on what's happening in Earth through a space or through a transmission of help or whatever. And I'm assuming, and like it's like, so is everything that we're seeing in these 2 episodes, did they know all that just because of this like audio track or whatever that's being sent to them? And like probably not, but it's I mean, slight plot hole.
Another thing,
and it's not even something.
And then with the description,
it will only be a
thing
plot
again,
hole
like the same one. It's like 4 years, but but they all said 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, did they just like skip over the year? Are they? Is it because it takes a year to get back?
Like, this,
like, why is that?
This has the potential to be a plot hole, but it will only become a plot hole if they make it. You know, so it's totally possible that they'll come up with some really clever explanation for why we won't have to like debrief the Paladins now that, and it'll be annoying because we already know what's happening and now they have to catch up to us or whatever. So hopefully they'll come up with some clever way to make it still be interesting while still giving the while still not just like leaving everybody in the dark.
I like the shows that you learn alongside the characters.
Yeah.
But like it kind of like takes away from the experience if you know something and then
because then it's just frustrating. Because then you know exactly where the show is going, and it's just waiting for all of the pieces to fall into place, and you know what's gonna like, and it's just like it's just a beginning, and then you know what the ending is gonna be like, so the middle doesn't even matter, and it's just like take me to the end. I know what's gonna happen.
Hopefully they do it good in here.
Yeah.
Like for the end of this, because I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, like we don't know
like
what's
by the end.
to happen by the end of this actual fight.
Like, apparently all of Earth's been captured. Not like all of Earth, but a lot of Earth's been captured.
Mm-hmm.
That's billions of people. How can the Korra are holding billions of people in ships? How many people died?
Oh, yeah.
Aliens.
And that's the other thing, is I'm so glad that this episode didn't shy away from killing people, and like obviously that's a bad thing. But again, I was expecting that they were going to shy away from it because this is a TV7 rated show. And I mean, this kind of just goes to show that they know who their target audience is, despite the rating of the show, because people die. Like, we don't like see them and stuff, but like they're inside ships, and we get the classic like audio transmission of someone saying, "Oh man, everybody's down except for me. Oh no," and then they cut out or whatever, implying that they are now dead. And like I was expecting that was the farthest that they were gonna go, but they show like people flying into battle, dying. And then you see their terrified face, and we cut away, and the ship is exploded. It's blown up. And
that person's dead.
Yeah, like and again, I don't think any of the cadets.
Like, Voltron also apparently, they're probably like capturing the humans, and now like you think about it, how many humans have they killed? How many of the paladins' families are dead?
Yeah, and you know,
like we see them when they give out the videos, but like how many family members died because of this?
It's just such an interesting topic, because this is all about like, you know, the effects that war have on individual people. And I love that idea, because I'm so fascinated with how society functions and how people generally, for the most part, are not aware of like the big picture, or like they are aware of the big picture, but they know that it exists, but they don't know what it really is. You know, it's the whole like, you know, oh, you know, I'm the only one who's littering, you know, everybody else will pick up after me. But then if everybody else has that mindset, everyone's littering, stuff's gonna go down. So it's like you need people to like realize what the big picture is and try to fix it, but also have the confidence that other people will have that attitude as well, which is it's very fascinating to me. And then I said the constant use of, I wrote down, I'm just reading what I wrote. The constant use of still images instead of 2D animation has been kind of annoying from the start, and it just can't be restated enough. And this, so like, they do use a lot more 2D animation in this season than they did before, but they also used a lot of just like panning shots, just like and like they look good. Like I could use a lot of these as just screenshot it and then use it as my desktop background. They look good, but I prefer stuff to be, you know, moving around and stuff, not really just panning. And that was just something that I noticed.
Some people complained about the 3D animation, like how often they used it.
Yeah, like what did you expect?
Previous seasons, but like this season, it's barely been here. Like you gotta have a good middle ground.
Yeah, and that's why I thought that. That's why I immediately, or like, when I finished the season, it's not like this season was like so much better because the writing was super tight and like all the characters, you know, went through huge changes or whatever. But I'd say that I enjoyed this season more than a lot of the others just because it was different. It was a breath of fresh air in a lot of senses. And that's, you know, in like, you know, we have different characters now. There's a lot of humor and just like plot points that, you know, we would understand but wouldn't really work earlier on in the show. And stuff like this that's happening where, you know, new kinds of animation is enough to really draw people in and, you know, make the whole experience feel different. But I would say
definitely like I could have gone without the 2 filler episodes being basically right next to each other.
Yeah, I think that they definitely could have
besides that,
spread those out.
Like the first half of this season has been like it has new stuff and yet mixture of the old stuff, like stuff that like the jokes and the lightheartedness is like that's what was before. And
so I would say overall a very strong season. And the second to last note, my last note is just I'm excited to see what's next. But Zan, or wait, what was his name? I can't remember all these names. Zantax or Anthrax, Sendak, Anthrax. When he's like conquering Earth or whatever, he says like they're like I think they're like should we destroy them all or whatever, and just like wipe out Earth or whatever, and then he responds to like his lackey by saying, he's like, no, because when an animal is crying, that promotes hostility or whatever, that promotes haste, but when there is silence, that promotes like caution or whatever. And I was like, that metaphor fell apart. That made no sense. Like, if I hear a crying, like if I hear nothing, I'm not going to be like, oh man, there's a dead animal, what killed it or whatever. But like if I hear an animal crying, I'm going to think, oh man, something hurt that animal. I don't want to get hurt like that. Like, obviously it does in a sense promote haste or whatever, but I don't know. I thought that metaphor was kind of strange, and it was a weird way to like basically finish off this two-parter. And I think I'm making a much bigger deal out of this than needs to be made out of it, just because we're doing this podcast series. Because we're essentially acting like episodes 1 through 8 is its own season, and then episodes 9 through 13 are the next season, just because we couldn't. There's no way that we'd be able to talk for enough time to cover all of that without our vocal cords exploding.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like this season,
all I had to say. What did you think of it? Of the season as?
This season was actually pretty good. There's a bunch of stuff that I didn't like with Alora.
Oh yeah.
But
like
besides
there was definitely a lot of stuff that could have been ironed out
and done better, of course. But like
for the amount of actual like content, like this, we've been getting like 6 episodes, 7 episodes for the past like 3 seasons now, or 2 or 3 seasons now.
For the amount of like stuff and like they trying some stuff new and adding new characters, like this was a decent season.
Yeah, and it's not over yet, so I'm really excited to see where this goes. So overall score for like my score for like episodes 1 through 8 overall, I would say this is a solid 8.5 show. Nefinitely,
I agree with that
like,
score.
Yeah, and like I mean from the start, people were like, this show is really good, and like I never like said that this is a bad show or whatever, but like in the back of my mind, I was like, this might go downhill, or at least people will start seeing things that they didn't see before, and the score is going to drop to like a 7, maybe even like a 6 or a 6.5 or something. But this show has just consistently been good, and like the reason that I think I've been just generally like kind of critical is because when they keep doing these like good things, these like really great things that warrants like an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10 kind of rating or whatever, and when that's considered standard for this show, it's like I don't really see the reason to talk about that. I want to talk about stuff that I had a reaction to, and when I don't react to something because it's standard, that doesn't mean that it's bad. And in this case, it means that it's good, because for this show, standard is 8.5 out of 10, which is awesome.
Yeah, this, like, so far there could have been better stuff done, but I just I like how it was a mixture of, like, some new and some old stuff, and I don't know.
Absolutely.
Like, there could have been some more explanations, but who knows, maybe it's explained more later.
I mean, yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited. Like, I mean, I said at like the very start of this video, I'm excited to have. I knew that we wouldn't be able to talk about this entire season just because of its length, and I'm excited now that, because literally once this is over, I can just start watching the rest of it.
The rest of it.
So it's kind of, it's so weird. It's so weird to like have a Netflix show come out and not binge all of it, because that's what everyone does, and that's what I do, and it's like, it's strange to stop halfway.
Like, now when you told me don't watch past episode 8, I'm like, well, I didn't, because it was so hard to stop at episode 8 because
Yeah.
I have been so busy and I couldn't finish binging. And then literally the next day before I was about to start again, you're like, hey, to watch all of it. And I'm like, okay.
Okay. But I mean, yeah, I have talked as much about these 8 episodes as I'm going to, and I'm excited to see what's next. So, do you have anything else to say before we finish up this video?
No.
All right, well, check out my awesome friend KittyCraft's channel. We are going to be continuing this series as the Voltron seasons come out, so please stick around if you enjoyed this podcast, and, let us know what you liked and disliked, how much you horribly disagree with everything we said in this video. If you want to check out KittyCraft's channel, the little circle bubble thing will be on screen now. She's awesome. Check her out. Great content. Terrible tales are hilarious.
They also take away my sanity.
That's the best part. All right. See you next time.
Goodbye.